Yeah, it's a long story.
Welcome, everyone, to the captive audience. It is a few minutes after 6, but we have a very special guest here with you tonight. I'm Kevin Hoare, and it is the 16th of February. A long time ago, somebody asked me to make sure I always announce the date because, things change like crazy, and some things, unfortunately, don't and actually get worse if they do change. But with us tonight, Representative Virgil Osborne. Generally describe your district, Representative Osborne, so people know where they're at and if you're representing them. But, in a way, you're representing a lot more than just the people in your district, which is why we love having you on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on first. I always appreciate the opportunity to get out there and tell people what really is happening. I'm actually at we rent a house here during session, so I'm a little relaxed. I went to the gym tonight because I was working out some frustration. So anyway,
my bag per chance.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a day. So my district goes from pretty much. I don't have Winston, but I have just a little bit north of Winston. I have Looking Glass, Melrose, Roseburg, and I go all the way up to the Douglas County border at Rice Hill, and then I go all the way east to the Crater Lake Park boundary. So it's a really big district. Not inhabited all that much, but I have Roseburg as the central. That's the city in my district that has the majority of the people in it. So yeah, it's a beautiful district. I grew up there. I've literally lived there my whole life. So I'm comfortable with. I understand what happens in the district, and very familiar with county politics and even the city politics.
Well, and that's the thing is that you're representing your area, and then you go off to Salem, and then it's something else is going on there. So, and I've heard some crazy stuff today. Just to throw out a few things to you, of course, I shared with you this Dr. Eric Fruits economist report about what's happened to the general fund budget over the last, I think it's 16 years, and it's unbelievable. But before we get to that, one of the things I saw was that a gun bill has been proposed that's going to, is it double the waiting time, and it's essentially going to try to do Measure 114 and worse.
Well, yeah, the Democrats have doubled down on ever since they were able to get 114, which was a horrible bill and written terribly, is how they got it across. But ever since then, they've been, and it's held up. There's an injunction on it, so it's held up in courts, and they have been trying to double down and double down and double down and try to find a way that, in the event that this thing doesn't survive the court challenge, which I don't think it will, they've got something to fall back on. Or if it does, they've doubled down on how hard it will be to get a permit. Essentially, what they want to do with the gun bill is make it impossible to get a permit. So you will be, well, of course, there's other parts of it too. But you'll be a felon if you try to buy a gun that you didn't get the permit, or you have a gun and you don't have the permit. There is no process to get a permit. The law enforcement doesn't have anything. There's no funding for law enforcement to train or not even just law enforcement. There's just no funding, period. And I don't think people are going to do this out of the goodness of their heart. Just go train people that have to be qualified to do it. And this is just another attempt at that. This is the kind of thing that's happening in our state. And I'll just tell you, it's happening because of a few people. This is not the general feeling of the legislature, certainly not the Republican Party, but it's also not the general feeling of the Democrat Party. There's a lot of Democrats that don't want this nonsense. But what happens with this, and I've probably had this conversation a half a dozen times in the last 2 weeks. What happens in Oregon, because we have a supermajority, those folks are afraid to go against the party. So you have a Democrat Party that is, let's just call it the name of your podcast. It's a captive audience. They cannot go against the governor. If they do go against the governor, there's 20 people in every one of those districts that are safe Democrat districts. There's 20 people to back them up. So that they know that. And what I'm seeing, the trends I'm seeing, that every time a Democrat ends up out of office, and unfortunately we've lost Hua Win to cancer, we put a more radical left person in that seat, and it
only gets worse, right?
Yeah. I've never seen it get better. Every single time so far that I've seen a Democrat move to the Senate, or it's probably been 3 or 4 times, it's always ended up being somebody that's even more radical. So the state is continuing, and you see it in the elections. The state's continuing to move to the left. The rest of the country, the rest of the country that's actually profitable, and businesses are thriving and thinking. I'm not talking about California or Washington because they're also in the same death doom
Yeah,
loop that we're in.
the
The rest
left
of
coast.
the rest of the country is doing fine.
Well, and it's starting to really take off. I mean, we see that unemployment's coming down, job growth is starting to surprise people with its vitality. We're seeing good economic GDP growth numbers, and consumer sentiment has kind of turned a corner, starting to head back up. And there's a feeling in the rest of the country that things are really turning around, except here.
Yes,
And it's because we're doing the opposite of what they're doing to make the rest of the country successful right now.
absolutely true. We are continuing to pass bills, and we are continuing to move in a direction that is only going to do long term damage to our state. I realize there's a big movement out there to end vote by mail, and there's a big movement to voter ID and all of the above. And I agree with all of it. I don't want to vote by mail. I'd rather vote in person. I think it's probably more accurate. Although I don't know the hand counting ballots is necessarily going to be more accurate than what the machines do. But that's neither here nor there. And I think there is a large group of folks out there that think that if we are able to get in vote by mail and a few of these other things passed, that it's going to change the trajectory of the state. And I would argue that I think it will change the trajectory of the state, but it's not enough to change the overall trajectory. I think the state is headed into this. And it's really simple. If you get your ballot and if you're a Democrat and you've got a list of people on it, everybody with a D behind their name is going to get your vote. If you're a Republican, everybody with an R behind their name is going to get your vote. And whether it's in person or whether it's by mail, that's what's happening. And we don't have to talk about. There's a lot of intricacies with voting by mail. I mean, I realize one person in the House could essentially dictate everybody else's votes. That they live with their the mom and the grandma.
The influence, yeah.
But realistically, the Democrats outnumber Republicans in the state by about 300,000. And the reality of it is that those folks live in urban areas, and until they feel the burn and decide that it's time to try something different, and I don't know that I see that coming. Until they feel the burn, I don't see that changing. Other than the non-affiliated voters, there are a lot of those, but again, those are voters that were made from motor voter law, right? And when you look at motor voter law. Whatever DMV you're in, I mean, if you're in DMV in Roseburg and you register to vote, there's a highly likely chance that you're going to be a Republican, whether if you don't click the box and you end up being registered as a non-affiliated, there's a good chance you're going to end up voting Republican. And in Portland, it's the same thing. You're going to end up voting Democrat. So I don't know. I don't know how much that really changes tilts the wheel, to the direction we'd like to see it. But I'm up for every advantage we can get right now, because this state is going down the rabbit hole, and I hate it.
Well, I think, and fine, folks want to pursue the end vote by mail and believe that it'll get on the ballot, but I think there's been a lot of polling too that has suggested that actually may not succeed at the ballot box. But there are, and if that's the case, then I would hate for people to waste a lot of time and effort on something that isn't quite there yet with voters. But one thing's for sure is that you can go after some of the parts of the election system that may
voter ID. Voter ID is important.
Voter ID, yes, and cleaning the voter rolls, auditing them so that they actually are known to be clean, right, and not just we have a complaint-driven system in the state that is almost impossible you'd have to actually catch somebody red-handed being an ineligible voter on the system, and then turn them in with the evidence, and then you'd be turning them into Tobias Reed, who I just don't think is going to move too quick on it, nor is our attorney general, who's too busy suing the Trump administration to enforce any laws in the state of Oregon that might protect people and their rights. And then I'm thinking, on top of that, we're not doing ourselves any favors, are we, by failing to pursue all the other things that we have to do and just say we're going to bet everything on red 24 here on the roulette wheel, and in fact we have to do all of the above. We're in the minority. We have to propose great policies. We have to fight for them. We have to criticize the bad policies. We have to expose them and expose who's voting for them. And then we actually have to do, and you just mentioned it, didn't you? Non-affiliated voters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to talk to them because that's how you make up that gap. And unfortunately, those folks turn out at a very low rate. But many of those folks think they're Republicans or think like Republicans. And then they show up. And that's why we see closer numbers, right? Than the voter registration. We see closer numbers when we see, say, statewide votes or in certain districts.
Yeah. Yeah. Non-affiliateds tend to vote, like I said, I mean, wherever they live. I mean, the trend is going to not change. I wish it would. I'd like to say every non-affiliated is a Republican. That would be amazing, because guess what? We would have our state back, and all we have to do is flip one place. So, right now, the Democrats control all three branches of the Oregon government. It only takes one. I mean, if we had a Republican governor, all this nonsense stops.
Yeah.
The governor has veto power. If we have a majority in the Senate, we block bad bills. We have a majority in the House, we block bad bills, and things come back to a level playing field. But right now, I mean, and today was a great example on the House floor. We spent 2.5 hours on the House floor. I had this. Oh my God! Today was a very emotional day for me. I was super upset with some of the way things went. But we spent 2.5 hours on the House floor. We passed one bill. It was an abortion bill. And we tested
one bill.
Yeah. And here we are in short session, the time when we should be figuring out all of the mistakes that we made and going back and revisiting and holding accountable agencies and all of the things that we should be. No, we're not doing that. We're messing around with a gun bill that's ridiculous. And on top of that, of course, we have to have one more abortion bill. We're going to protect the doctors now from lawsuits, and if they decide to go ahead and mutilate, well, it's not just abortion; it's transgender and whatever the hell it's called.
Oh,
yeah. So we're basically giving the doctors the ability to indemnify them from any damages if they go ahead and do that work. Now, I will tell you that I think this is just posturing, because I think attorneys are attorneys, and if a 15-year-old kid ends up with his genitals cut off and he decides at 21 that he shouldn't have done that, they're going to sue, and the state can try to block whatever they want. Lawyers aren't stupid, judges aren't stupid. They're going to find all kinds of reasons to sue the doctor for doing it. So I think that being a doctor that does abortions on 12-year-olds and without telling their parents and all of this nonsense, I don't know. I can't get there from here. There's this state has gone off the cliff. We are just doing crazy stuff.
Well, it says something about the priorities, doesn't it? Because if that's the most important thing to the Democrat Party, look at all of the things they're in charge. Yep. Look at all the things they're responsible for. Yep. We talk about the economy. We've got businesses leaving. This is one of the most expensive states. It's getting more expensive.
Yeah.
The taxes are going up. The spending, as we were talking at the beginning of the show about this Dr. Eric Fruits article that it was a LinkedIn post, but he talks about what has happened to our budget, and it shows that the state budget, not the all funds, but the state budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
$14.2 billion in 2009 through 11 that we do biennial budgets.
Yep.
In 2019, right before COVID, that had risen to $23.4 billion, which is a pretty significant increase, right?
Mm-hmm.
That budget this year, 25 through 27,
is
$39.1 billion. So we've gone from 16 years ago, $14.2 billion to $39.1 billion. That's completely unsustainable. It's madness.
Well, something to be proud of. I suppose we probably set a record for the whole country for being stupid. You got to go back today's floor session and watch my testimony against this bill. So and it'll make sense. And really, it's an abortion bill. But my testimony was just touched the abortion part of it, and it had more to do with, I basically said our state's burning down around us. And we're literally our economy's in the ditch. Our businesses are leaving as fast as they can. It goes on and on and on. So, but yet the state's budget continues to broaden and get bigger, right? And we know we have this whole ODOT fiasco going on right now too. But I remember when we had our gosh, when was it? I think the first revenue forecast of the long session, and they were just touting how great it is because we created 22,000 jobs or something like that. Almost all of those jobs that were created were with, it was 11,000, I think, were all in the state-funded agencies. So, whether it be healthcare or DQ, whatever it was, and I'm like, this is something to be proud of. I mean, and in the same revenue forecast, it talks about how many jobs we lost, which was considerably more, and all that came from the private sector. And I'll tell you what people don't understand. And I had some union folks in my office today, and I'm like, the most expensive part of a business's overhead is the labor, and manufacturing for sure. And we can't do it here. Oregon has got to the point where it's too expensive, not just from the minimum wage, increases, but all of the bureaucracy that goes along with it and the permitting and one after another after another. Now, I will give the governor props, which is kind of unusual, but she does have a bill, I guess 4084, that does kind of pave the way to get around some of the bureaucracy and getting in permitting. And I was actually able to discuss with her direct, and it's actually on, it's on in committee. She actually took questions from me direct on trying to lower the bar for rural Oregon. I mean, the bar was set at $50 million investment to be able to get into the sweet spot, so to speak, to get around some of these permitting issues. And I'm like, okay, nobody's going to come into Douglas County and spend $50 million on a business. We don't even have the workforce there anymore because the timber industry is gone. It's and I mean, there's so much wrong, but so easy to fix. All of it's really simple to fix. And I just, that's the part that perplexes me. It's like, I come to Salem and, it's not just about Douglas County. I fight for the whole darn state. But the reality of it is, you have to change policies. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and again and expect a different result. And we keep throwing money away trying to make things better. And it's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It's the definition of insanity. And I do think there are some people that maybe aren't feeling it or can afford the luxury of Democrat policies that we're getting in this state. And these are far left Democrat policies. As you said, I think it's even a small number of the Democrat leaders who are responsible for pushing all this ahead, but they are well paid for by their special interest groups. And this is actually that. Let me show this. This is I can share this on the screen real quick. See if I can get this. So this is the budget growth, but if you look at all of these different areas, the program areas is what it shows. You got the state school fund. There's been a pretty significant increase there year on year. We are not seeing pretty significant improvements in education. We're seeing some, but it's enormous sums of money being thrown at this. And then you look at human services. That one has quadrupled.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah. Human services quadrupled. It's now $13 billion. The human services budget in 2026 is nearly as large as the entire budget was in 2009. Yeah. But you look at public safety, I can't explain all of the numbers here, but we are not devoting the level of resources to public safety that we are devoting to many of these programs that have grown unbelievably fast and enormously.
Yeah.
And then you look at things like economic development, transportation.
Right.
And I'm just like, well, wait a second. I thought we were having a big fight over transportation taxes and we were going to get more transportation as a result. I'm not seeing it here.
No, there's no plan. There's no accountability. And I gotta correct you on your budget numbers, Kevin. Our state budget is actually about 140 billion.
All funds, right?
All fun, yeah, everything in 140 billion. About 38 million, or I'm sorry, about 38 billion of that is federal funds. So a third of our budget is coming from the federal Trump administration, so to speak.
Directly.
And a whole bunch of that's not coming our way. And while it's not coming our way, our attorney general is busy suing the Trump administration for everything he can come up with. And then I think they expect the Trump administration to give in and start going ahead and funding projects here. It's like, I'll be honest with you, I hate to see Oregon suffer, but you know what? That's probably what it's going to take to get these guys to wake up. I don't know.
I think the rest of the country is done paying for the stuff that Oregon thinks is important. But I also don't know that they're being held accountable in this state, the leaders, for funding things that just aren't important. But maybe they will be because they can't pay for everything anymore.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got another 2 hours, we could talk about that. But I also have to tell you the improvements we've seen in the education system is because we've lowered the test score needed to graduate. Right?
We've lowered the bar.
We've lowered the bar. Of course, we're going to see improvement. It's just, okay. I could go on. So today I see this thing on the internet, another local Democrat, and I've been calling this for the last 3 years, and I truly believe it. I think what our Democrat Party wants to do, they want our utility systems to fail. They want our power grid. They want our Pacific Power and basically, if they go down, all of the local co-ops will go down too. They want it to fail, because if it fails, they can't stop producing electricity for the masses, because obviously that would be a major problem. So what they'll do, the state will step in and take it over. And then when the state takes it over, here's how that works. And anything the state runs is pretty much going to turn to crap. But right. I'm trying not to use any bad words on your podcast. I don't know how. I don't know.
Right. No, but we get it. You know.
So when that happens, and I've seen this with the state banks, they're trying to establish a state bank so people with bad credit can go ahead and borrow money, your money, taxpayer money. And frankly, if the state steps in and takes over a utility, like whether it could be water, it could be, likely it wouldn't be water, but it could be. They're already trying to, they're putting the hurt on our water rights. But the reality is they're going to probably do it to natural gas, and they're going to do it to electricity. And then what happens is all those folks that are, poverty level, which is the state creates new ones every month, they can't afford to pay for their power bill. That's okay. The state will cover it with our money. So our bills, if you're a certain level of income, you will be considered highly compensated, which Lord help me, I know I'm not, but they will, you'll be paying the bill for everybody else. That's called socialism. Yeah. And I saw it today on a Facebook post from one of my local Democrat people that's completely crazy left. And that's exactly what they wanted. That's exactly what they said. They used to try to hide behind it, but now I think it's coming out in the open. And this state's headed down that path. I mean, I wish I had good news. I always want to, when I do my podcast, I always want to tell people how great of news I have and something really good's happening. But every time we come together as a legislature in Salem, nothing good comes out of it. So the aggregate is always hurts the state. And I just hope we can, not just at a state level, but at our federal level, our federal reps too. Monique, I hope she can pull it off. There's all kinds of good that can happen if we end up in a position where we can start turning the tide a little bit and start paying attention to the people in the state.
Well, and that's the key word, both if you're going to Congress or you're representing people in the state legislature, is representative.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem now that our system is broadly representative of what's going on and what people stand for in the state. It's kind of a narrow set of groups that have an enormous amount of influence over a very small number of people who decide what happens with everyone else. And as you said, they come down like a ton of bricks on anybody who uh, says that they are maybe going to think for themselves, right? Ask Senator Meek.
That's a perfect example. To get yanked off your committee, and all because he was doing the right thing, and there's no question about what he was doing was right, and clearly, and the president of the damn Senate replaces him on his committee. And what does that tell you? It's like, well, I'll tell you exactly what it tells you. It tells you that Governor Kotek called up Rob Wagner and said, if you guys don't pass this bill, I'm going to make sure you're primaried and gone. So there you go.
And then they will make it stick because they have a machine, which is primarily consisting of the public employee unions, and I think some pretty well-funded lawfare groups that fight on the environmental side, who are deciding they are actually them and the laws they support are the main reason why people can't afford housing in the state, because they're just not allowed. Just like you said, what will be the solution to making sure that people that don't have a lot of money can afford to heat their homes and power their devices and drive their cars? Inexpensive energy.
Yeah.
Abundance, right? Same is with the housing. Abundance. And they do everything they can to debilitate that ability to deliver abundance, maybe even collapse that system or make it so unaffordable that at some point they end up rationing it, and then they make it free to whatever group they decide they want to go buy the votes of.
Yeah.
Everybody's worse off, aren't they, when that happens?
It's called socialism, Kevin, and socialism works great until it doesn't. What happens with socialism? I always compare socialism to a parasite, right? You know, the parasite will eat the host until the host dies, and then it has to move on to something else, or it dies too. And so socialism is the exact same way. So let's go back. So in my district, of course, there's a local group of Democrats that just hate my guts. I never met most of them. I don't know why they hate me. I fight for their rights too. But it always seems to sink to the lowest denomination, which they always bring up LGBTQ crap and all this other shit. So one of them came to me and said, hey, I really would like you to push a bill, in the Christmas tree fund to get a $5 million grant to build housing in Douglas County, for homeless and whatever. Not really homeless. It's low income. Yeah. And so I said, yeah, absolutely. I'll do it. Right. So it's in. The request is in, and it made the deadline. And I told the person that put it in, I said, now here's the deal. I have two requests. I have yours, and I have another one that's quite a bit smaller. We're only allowed two this time around. And I said, I will champion your request. But I said, if we don't get your request, remember this. I'm not the guy making the decision. I'm the guy asking for the money for you. Your party is the one that makes the decision on where the money goes. Yeah. And, but yet they still, just tonight, I had another knucklehead Democrat. I don't even know. This guy is so scummy. I wouldn't call him a Democrat because I actually like Democrats. This guy's below that. So in my testimony, he comes back and he's all like, oh yeah, you should be fighting for things that are more important. What a waste of money you are. You're up there fighting against abortion and fighting against born alive abortion. He goes, that never happens. Well, I commented back right before your podcast. I said, we actually had somebody on the House floor today that was actually aborted and survived the abortion and lives and thrives today, like a normal person. And obviously very traumatized by the fact that, almost didn't make it. But this is so I guess what I'm getting at is, and I do this with my podcast, and I'm glad you're doing it too, because you're asking the right questions. We have to educate people on how government works, because most people have no idea. They have an opinion and they have a whole bunch of emotion that goes into it. And I'm not just talking about Democrats. I mean, Republicans and Democrats. It's like, well, the hell with them. And I got another knucklehead Republican that lives in my district, and I hate to call people names, but you only get to that level when you do something that's so stupid that I can't help it because I want to call you something worse.
Earning knucklehead is a work.
Yeah. And some of them, but one of them thinks that, all we have to do to make a bad bill go away is nullify the bill. We just write on the bill, nullified because it's not constitutional, and we hand it back to some imaginary agency, I guess. and the bill goes away. That's not how a representative republic works. I mean, there is an ability to do that, and it rests with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has the final decision on a bill that we pass. If it's deemed unconstitutional, i.e., the Measure 114, if it's deemed unconstitutional, then the bill is unwound. But people listen to this garbage on the internet. They listen to the stuff that's written on Facebook or X or whatever, and they get wrapped up in stuff that's just not true. And they don't make they don't care enough to make the effort to, I don't know, call somebody that knows better. Call me. I'm happy to explain it to them. Hell, we've got some amazing commissioners in Douglas County that have, one of them is Tim Freeman. He used to actually be in my position at one point, a few years back. He's probably forgotten more about politics than I'm ever going to know. And he's always a wealth of information, but yet they don't like him because he's a rhino and, whatever, part of the cabal. It's like, we got to work together as a Republican Party. We need to set our differences aside and pull for the same team. Or not. We can all die on the hill.
Well, it's actually, I think Benjamin Franklin said this during the making of the Declaration of Independence, and they were all fighting with each other about whether they should even declare independence, and if so, what should that declaration say? And he said, if we don't hang together, we most assuredly will hang separately. And I believe that that's actually what happens when we act like we have the luxury of not working together to defeat an opponent that actually uses the iron fist to maintain unity. But it could unravel if there is a unified, determined opponent with a strong voice. And I think that's why, as you said, we're doing this. I saw, by the way, that you did put out a press release here. You made a motion to pull House Bill 4087 from committee and bring it to the floor for a full vote.
Yes.
And it was to put that out in front of people that there's this alternative, that there's a different point of view. And it's about a child being born alive. And as you said, you said this, and I think this is great. Politics may be hard to understand, but this subject is not. And that drives the point home, is that we have to simplify the message for a lot of people. But we also, look, if somebody thinks that they can do something that's impossible, they're nullifying themselves. If you go and say, I think I can fly if I jump off this building because I just heard this on the internet, then you're going to be nullified, but you're going to be doing it to yourself. We have to fight the battles that we can win, and we have to persuade people at the right moment at the right time. I would love it, by the way, if in your district and across, say, Douglas County, we went out and found a way to get all those non-affiliated voters to switch on, because so many of them do lean Republican.
Yeah.
And if we had just an incredibly disproportionate turnout of non-affiliated voters, they only turn out like at half the time, even in presidential elections. Republicans, Democrats, 80% of the time. If there's more Democrats than Republicans, do the math, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we are working on that as a Republican Party. The Central Committee is working on. I saw some lists go out that we're going to start making those phone calls. But I'm going to give you a Virgil quote because I just thought of it.
Okay. So you got a Virgil coming.
Yeah. About 100 years from now, and Ben Franklin quotes they're kind of dying off. You can use this quote, right? And here's my quote: "Not a single baby born in the United States in the last 200 years has ever been born a Democrat or a Republican."
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So and then I'll use a Reagan quote. It's like, it seems like the only people that really care about abortion are the ones that already are alive. They don't, what about the ones that never made it, right? Because they, were aborted. This is the thing. We got to set aside our differences on this stuff and start looking at the big picture. And the big picture is babies are dying. And not only are babies dying, kids are being mutilated. And not only are kids being mutilated, they're also being abused, because you can come to Oregon, you can somebody's uncle in Idaho can have sex with a 12-year-old and get her pregnant, not tell her parents, and they'll come to Oregon to have an abortion. And it happens. I mean, about 12 years. It happens, right? I mean, people, it never happens. That's not true. It happens. They'll come to Oregon, have the abortion. And because of our laws, We can't even go after the uncle. We can't even ask the 12-year-old who got him pregnant.
Yeah.
That makes me want to puke. Every time I think about it, I just get sick to my stomach. But yet here we are. And I don't know how we got so far down the rabbit hole. I mean, I thought California was a horrible place until I actually woke up one day and realized that, oh, Oregon's even worse in some ways.
Well, so I do have one good piece of news. Planned Parenthood apparently is dropping the effort to add abortion as an Oregon constitutional right. They were going to do an initiative petition and they've dumped it, which means that as much as the Democrats want to talk about that issue constantly all day long and make it the focus of everything, I think that's often been to hide and to cover up the complete mess they've made of the state too, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think it's deeper than that. I think they know they're going to lose their federal funding, and and that's probably what's behind most of it. But mark my words, the day Trump is not in office anymore, or if they, if we lose the midterms, you're going to see this. We're already about ready to fall off the cliff. In some cases, I think we have, but I think we'll just jump back into the water. I mean, it's just gonna. You only hear about this. The abortion thing always comes up in election year because that's the hill they always choose to die on.
Yeah.
And what people hear out in public, they're like, "Oh, well, Christine Drazan she's anti-abortion, so we can't vote for her." Well, that's not necessarily the case. We have reasons for abortion, and I don't like to talk about them, but the reality of it is, a woman's life. There's also. Well, first and foremost, the life of the mother, if it's endangered, and the only way out, which is very rare these days because we've gotten so much better at medicine, but if the only way out is to abort the baby, what do we do? Do we let the mom die? No, we don't do that. Also, rape and incest. I mean, do we allow? That's a tough one because right to life is, and rightfully so. They're like, it's not the baby's fault, and they're not wrong. Right? I mean, you can't necessarily with accuracy predict how a victim of rape's baby is going to turn out 20 years down the road. And for that matter, even incest, as much as it's disgusting, you don't know. So it's not the baby's fault. And I kind of get those arguments. And I think Christine Drazan's probably on that same page. And I don't know where Ed Deal is on it, but I think he's probably in the same ballpark. I think most of us are. But just to go and have abortion as a way of birth control, which is what the state's turned into, no, I can't. I don't. That's bull. Bull sugar, I think is how Ronnie said it.
Bull sugar.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like the Democrats have successfully controlled enough in the media, enough of what people see and hear that they don't even know what's causing their problems. If they can't afford a home, they have no idea why. And if they are seeing prices of fuel go up, they don't know why. And it has come down. Gasoline has come down a lot, right?
Not in Oregon.
But not in Oregon to the extent that, because a huge percentage of the cost of gasoline is tax.
Yeah.
And of course, we've got the potential of not having supply of gas and with the refinery issues. California, the only thing it does seem like we're in a competition for stupid with California because California, they got refineries just closing left and right. They got gas stations closing left and right.
Well, yeah, they'll get to the point where we are, but really our gas tax our state level gas tax is about 40 cents a gallon now. And I think, as I recall, when I looked this up, it's been a while back, I think we were number 7 in the nation on gas tax at that time. If we had passed, well, we did pass. If we had done the original thing that, the original bill that we killed that Kotek won it through, it would have pushed our gas tax up to 80 cents a gallon, which would have put us in first place, the best, fastest, stupid, right? I mean, and you're right about the refineries. We don't have any in Oregon. In fact, we do have a dispensary in Oregon where the fuel comes in. It's up on the Columbia, and the Democrats, because I sit on the committee environmental and climate, energy, and environment, they really, really want to shut that down. They want to do is I can't remember the ask, but it was a lot of money. I want to say it was like $1.5 billion. They want to rebuild it. because it's too close to the river, and there's potential of the Cascadia earthquake could someday miraculously break it, and they could have some oil leak into the river. So they're definitely afraid of that. So they want to rebuild it, which I understand that part. But here's the thing: they want to make it smaller. And why they want to make it smaller? Because they have electric cars. They don't need the fuel, right? So
just like the I-5 bridge, right?
exactly. And these are all things that I swear, before I got into politics, I had no idea any of this stuff was going on in the background. I had my opinions and my assumptions about my predecessor and about other people. I mean, I remember I used to bag on my predecessor because he never was a chair in any of the committees. Well, now that I'm in the House, I realize if you're a Republican, you don't get a chair in a committee. That's how that works, right?
That's right.
It doesn't matter how good a Republican you are. You might get vice chair, which I am a vice chair on a committee, but your influence is only as good as the number of people that are sitting at the counter at the time. And it doesn't, they don't take votes when they know they're going to lose, because that's what the chair does. So again, we have to. People need to understand politics. And, frankly, the folks that live in downtown Portland that have never hardly left the zip code, and I'm talking about the kids that are growing up there, and, their interests lie within, a lot of different things, none of which probably I do. But they don't know how government works. They don't realize that the reason why why they don't have a job, or why they don't have a house to live in, is not because the Republican Party is causing this problem. The fact is that all the money is going to somebody else. The only way to get to the level of free is to have nothing. There's another quote for you.
Well, wasn't it somebody at that World Economic Forum thing, the Klaus Schwab guy that is like, seems like a Bond villain running a economic forum? Anyway, he said, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And of course, they leave out the other part of it, which is because we told you so. Because that's what we've decided for you.
Yeah.
And the minute you don't have the means to look after yourself, that's the minute that I think Ronald Reagan also said, the government that's powerful enough to give you everything you want is powerful enough to take it all away. And they will. And I love the thing that Margaret Thatcher said. It fits with what you said earlier about socialism, and how you finally, you end up running out of money. Actually, what you do,
run out of other people.
You run out of other people's money. And in the case of Oregon, that money gets up and leaves the state. And that's what businesses are doing. That's what individuals are doing. And of course, we're importing to replace them. We're importing an unfortunate a mix of folks that don't want to pay for things and who want to do drugs and intense and kind of wreak havoc. And of course, don't forget another group that doesn't pay any taxes. We're a magnet for illegal immigration. They're going to come here because they get free stuff, and they can even be severely hardened criminals with awful records. And our attorney general will do everything he can to make sure they can stay no matter what.
We're a sanctuary state, so that's a problem. I'll tell you, as with almost any state, you can take the pulse of the biggest cities in the state, and that will tell you the direction of the state. And it doesn't take a rocket science. Hell, Stevie Wonder could see that our state's failing by what's happening in Portland. And frankly, I think I saw a report. You might have sent it to me, but the value of real estate, commercial real estate in Portland city limits has dropped. They thought it was going to drop, but now it's actually plummeted even farther. I want to say it's down 70% from where it was at its height, and they don't think it's reached the bottom yet.
It wasn't long ago that it was at that height.
Yeah, exactly. And all of that happened because of, frankly, bad liberal policies. I mean, instead of cleaning up the streets, we've allowed the streets to become a place where no business wants to be. And that's you go to downtown Portland, and I was up there. It's been a couple months ago. I stayed the night at one of the big hotels there, and I was actually pretty surprised when I walked out on the street in the morning. I didn't see a lot of graffiti and a lot of the stuff that I thought I was going to see, but what I saw was a lot of vacant, empty buildings and storefronts and restaurants. And I was going to go get a coffee at Starbucks. Well, got there was no Starbucks anymore. It was gone, and that trend is going to continue to happen. And I think that it's indicative of the rest of the state. I mean, we're headed down the same thing
You
now.
can, you can see the same thing in Eugene, by the way. I can tell you, it's
Oh,
empty storefronts all over the place.
yep. And the other thing, it's kind of in the background. Another thing that's going on. Most people don't even know anything about it. But the Portland Trailblazers were bought by an individual, right?
Yeah.
Privately owned. And he basically went to the governor and he said, "Look, if you don't rebuild the Moda Center and give us a new stadium, we're out. We're going to move somewhere that will." And I mean, there's probably I don't know, 100 cities out there that would happily take the Portland Trailblazers because it's obviously a long-standing franchise. So what the legislature is doing is that I think it's $350 million. They want to bond it through the legislature, so they're gonna take a vote on this thing here probably in the next 2 weeks to fund that through the legislature as a bond. And I'm like, no freaking way. I think I voted yes. I'm pretty sure I voted yes on the baseball stadium, which was 850 million.
Mhm.
And that I don't think is going to happen. I mean, nobody wants to move to Portland.
Yeah.
And the guy that bought the Trailblazers is a billionaire. It's not like he couldn't come up with 350 million on his own to rebuild it. He doesn't want to be there, and I
Yeah.
get it. I mean, nobody wants to be downtown Portland, and
Well, that's what happens too when you are a city like Portland and you've wrecked yourself fiscally, and now you just turn your pockets inside out and say, "We don't, we really can't go and help you anymore with this." They if it's that important to Portland, which I think actually it may be important to Portland, so pay for it, right? If the city wants to pay for it, but they have damaged themselves by wasting tons of money and then damaged their economy, which could probably easily pay for this kind of thing,
oh yeah,
and it's not going to, because I think in a year, back in 2020, 2021, like $1 billion got up and left the city in taxable income.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember the number. It was pretty crazy, and frankly, that was caused by bad city policy. I mean, and Portland's the most taxed city in our state, and I think it ranks somewhere in the top 3 in the whole country as the highest tax. It might even be number 1.
It does, because it's got so many levels of government all taxing. There's gobs of money going into apparently doing something about drug addicted homelessness. That if you go out there, it's gone up 35% while they've been spending more money. So the magic is apparently not there. And but I did want to catch before we wrap up here today. Jason Williams, he does great stuff at the Oregon Catalyst, and he kind of listed. This is the article. There's 2 kicker bills, a bill about local gas taxes and more. And I thought we could do some quick hits, and you could just let me know what you think of these and whether or not they actually have a chance of getting somewhere. Kicker theft number 1 manipulates the formula kickers determined. HB 4125. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know that it's had a hearing yet, and it's not popular. So I'm hoping that it dies. We're to the point now where if it hasn't had a hearing, it's dead.
So kicker theft number 2 does have a Wednesday hearing. It's Senate Joint Resolution 201. It's a constitutional amendment to refer to the voters for approval that would divert a portion of the kicker tax funds to education, community colleges, and forestry. Should get a hearing on the 18th. Does that sound like that one probably has some legs potentially?
I don't know the answer to that, but I will tell you that I would love to see him put in front of the voters.
Because they're pissed off right now.
Yeah.
Put that one on the general election ballot, folks.
Yeah. Can we take your kicker to fund Portland? Because that's what they want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Or they'll take, or money's fungible. Even if they do fund education, community colleges, and forestry, they'll take the money that's being used for education, community colleges, and forestry and send it over to like DEI and paying Portland to be a climate zone where no one can afford to live.
Well, right, and the only reason they put forestry in there is to try to pick up some votes from rural Oregon. And the reality of it is, it ain't going to help rural Oregon. It might go to the Department of Forestry, potentially for wildfire use, but even that, it's like I'm just a no. My kicker is my kicker, and it's your kicker, and we need to, it by constitution right now. It is our kicker, and that's how it should stay.
And the forest should be funding forestry.
Well,
That's a
if we
no
launch,
brainer.
it would. Yeah,
Yeah.
if we actually cut trees, we would.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean that's a whole nother podcast. We can talk about timber all day long.
Oh
That's
yeah. No, we will. We'll come back to that one. Removes the right to vote on local gas taxes bill. It's House Bill 4007, and they want to make it so that if, say, city like Tigard or Beaverton passes a gas tax, they can do it without having a vote of the people. Is that it?
yeah, that's Evans's bill. I think that's going to die. That's it's. I mean, again, why? Why would you kick people in the freaking gonads when they're already on the ground? I mean, that's all that's doing.
That's what the whole gas tax referral showed, right?
Yep,
Don't do
yep,
that.
yep.
Sue businesses into oblivion bill is what Jason calls it. House Bill 4007 puts more businesses under the Unlawful Trade Practices Act.
Right, Didmica. Yep, yeah. That actually is. I think it's already scheduled to come to the floor. It came out of my committee, and yeah, we're gonna see it. It's an insurance bill, kind of. It adds. It kind of wide opens the whole unlawful. What do they call it? Unlawful trade UTPA. And allows for third-party lawsuits. It's all kind. This is a bill that was basically presented by and supported in committee. It's a committee bill by Representative Sosa, who's a trial attorney.
Trial lawyers, yeah.
We have too many trial attorneys, by the way.
Well, and that's a powerful lobby that gets what it wants usually.
Well, and one of them just happens to be the consumer protection chair. So you can imagine the crap that we've seen.
Yeah. This is the tip of the iceberg. Okay, Superfund fee climate bill, Senate Bill 1541 empowers state agencies to come up with a master invoice of what they think any negative impact done by energy companies over the last 30 years. It would then set the stage for fining these energy companies by billions. You were talking about how they don't want to have energy infrastructure and they don't want it to be affordable. Sounds like bad news.
I'm told by Senator Brock Smith that bill bit the dust. That was a Jeff Golden bill. And by the way, the best news I've heard all week is the fact Jeff's not going to run again.
Jeff Golden.
Yep.
Yeah.
He announced he's not going to run because frankly, he can say what he wants, but he's already screwed up his district to the point where it's not recoverable. So
might be a backlash. That sounds great.
Yeah.
It's about time. Limit bills by legislature. House Bill 4002 wants to limit the number of bills a lawmaker can propose to 25. And I've heard this before. It sounds good on the surface until it really just turns into a way to hamstring the minority party because the majority gets to do all the gut and stuffs, and the leadership and the committee chairs get more bills than the members.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it's still the committees still have, I don't remember the number, but it's a lot, and the governor still gets 100 bills of her own. And then you're right. I mean, you think about today's logistics of where we are, and we have 23 Republicans and 36. I'm off by one, but Democrats. So if each of us only got 25 bills, guess what that means? That means the majority party gets significantly more bills than the minority party. But here's the bigger thing. What happens again, this is a politics thing. People don't understand. It sounds like a good idea. Let's limit all the nonsense. The reality of it is it puts it into omnibus bills. So when you have an omnibus bill, hidden things come with it, right? I mean, everybody does it. We get in stuff bills and we put other stuff in it.
Christmas bills too.
Yeah. And so now you're going to have a bill that's my number 25, and I need to get these other 6 things passed this session, so I'm going to shove them all into that bill. Still got one bill. It's
they anytime you see something is being studied, actually it does begin with an S, but I believe the word is screwed. And that is, nothing's being studied, but someone or something is being screwed by the bill.
Yeah.
Republican pause. Capitol rumor has that the Republican House and Senate lawmakers may stop the fast tracking of bills by not excusing any procedure like the full verbal reading of the bills. Forcing both chambers to conduct business under normal pace may ruin the calendar. Oh golly, well that'd be so sad if that happened to all of these wonderful bills that we're hearing about that are going to do things like making it possible for you to own a firearm, or the abortion and child mutilation protection bill for doctors performing these on minors. The list goes on and on. It sounds like there's almost no reason to pass anything in the session. Is there anything you can think of that has to pass in this session?
No,
Because there's no budget, right? That's already done.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been voted on yet, but yeah, there's some bills that are not horrible. There's some fix-it bills that probably would be just fine. But you're right about the going into slow mode. The one thing they can't stop us from doing is putting this whole thing down into low gear and letting it idle. And if they want to work Saturdays and Sundays, I don't really care. It pays the same. I'm fine with that. I'm literally, I rented a house in Salem so I can be here. It doesn't matter what time of day, I'm still here. And my dog's even here with me. I think you saw him earlier. He came up to the table, but nobody wants to work the weekends, but you know what? If that's what it takes to protect the freaking people in Oregon, hell, I'll work every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what this job is in some respects, is protecting them. It's just that when the government's not doing it, then you got to protect the people from the government. I'm
here. The scariest words you'll ever hear is I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Exactly. Apparently the government someone wants to, there's a petition to ban hunting in Oregon that's gaining traction for the November ballot. I think it's gaining traction with the media. But the proposal is called the Peace Act, People for the Elimination of Animal Cruelty Exceptions. And I got to say, sometimes the funniest part of this is who is behind this. And let me see if I can show this to you. This is apparently the chief petitioner. Doesn't that just about say everything you need to know about?
Yeah, that's
what idea this is.
I see one rat is short of a cart. Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. Kevin, I'll be honest with you. Part of me wants to see it pass, just so these guys can finally piss off enough people that there's a revolt.
Yeah,
it's like, and here's the thing. Go ahead and tell me I can't hunt and then try to stop me.
Yeah, right. And I mean, why are they trying to piss off guys with guns that are minding their own business? I just think that has a very bad history in America.
And some days I don't ever wish anybody to have to get shot, but if there's a list of people that needs to get shot, then you earned your way on that list somehow.
Yeah, you did something. It wasn't just an accident. No, and this is in addition to the stuff where they're trying to ban animal husbandry, farming and ranching. They're trying to do that. And I think
it's cool, because so then when you want to eat, you go to Safeway, guess what? There won't be any steaks to buy. There won't be any pork on the shelf. There won't be any eggs to buy. It's like, great. So I guess we'll just grow our shit and we'll eat it from our yard. We'll have our radishes and our carrots, and that's what we'll live on. These people are insane, but that's the way our state's going. I mean, it's nuts. And on top of that, we already screwed up our entire ecosystem in Oregon anyway by eliminating the ability to hunt with dogs when it came to cougars and bears, right?
Yeah.
That happened in I think the early 90s or whenever it did. And, I've always told people, I said, our ecosystem here, man got here and we screwed it up. We killed all the wolves. We did all the stuff we did. If we step out of it, it will get worse. We have to manage it. And the fact that we're not managing predation, we have more bears and more cougars, hell, we have more coyotes and more foxes. We have all kinds of predators, and they're eating the rest of the livestock. But what happens and it's going to happen. I mean, wolves, we shouldn't even have wolves, but we do. What's going to happen when they run out of food? They're going to find it somewhere else. And, it's going to, what does it take to piss off people? Do you have to lose your kid to a wolf? Is that what's going to finally be the final straw? I don't know.
Well, that guy that's the chief petitioner for that thing, he doesn't look like as much of a tasty meal, actually. As so, maybe he's just not worried because he looks like he's almost not there. You know,
Well, I mean, I have to be cautious of how I comment about people's appearances, I suppose, because I am a leader. But the reality of it is, people that want to lock down the forest and eliminate hunting. If you've never held a gun, you've never been in the forest, and I'd be pretty sure that guy's probably never went on a camping trip overnight anywhere.
no.
Maybe in somebody's garage, but you shouldn't be having you don't have a say so. If you don't know what you're talking about, you should just keep your mouth shut and talk about something you're familiar with. And I don't even know the guy. I don't really even know the petition because I think it's so freaking ridiculous. I haven't read it. But
Well, they should bring it to the ballot and see just what that does to get people, hunters, and Second Amendment folks to turn out if they want to drive up turnout. Because I don't think
I think it should go on the November ballot right against the governor. That'll make the Republicans turn out. So it's not a bad thing. I mean, maybe we can have a gas tax on there too.
be awesome too. Yep, exactly. And I know that fight's still going on, so we'll stay tuned for that. But hey, thanks again, Representative Osborne, for coming on. I really appreciate it. This is, as you said, what we're doing to inform people. You got some compliments here in the comments.
Oh, cool.
Actually, Monique Despain said, Virgil, keep up the good work and do not despair. We appreciate you holding the line. So that is actually a good way to kind of wrap up tonight. I do want to make sure that folks know where they can go. You've got a website, which is virgilosborne.com. I'm posting that here. And then there's OregonLegislature.gov/Osborne. If you want to check out, including your press release that you just did.
Yeah, and stay with our podcast too. And Kevin, I need to get you on my podcast. I've been, in fact, we postponed this week because I just got too much going on. But On the Verge is actually a fairly successful podcast, and we just lay it out like it really is. We don't BS. We tell the story. We tell the truth. Democrats hate it because they don't like the truth being exposed. And if they hate it, that means I'm on target. So, that's fine with me.
You're catching flack because you're over the target.
Over the target. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Check out Virgil's podcast, On the Verge. I think they can find it on is it Spotify?
It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify, Amazon Music. It's on Apple Music. It's on my Facebook, actually, on all of my Facebook channels. And then it has its own too, On the Verge. You can actually get to the link to YouTube from On the Verge Facebook as well. So, follow us. We've been doing it now for a little over a year. I think January was a year. And we've had some great guests on there. We get a lot of legislators. In fact, I'm surprised I haven't seen a couple of them come through the house here in the last hour because they're usually getting home about now. But they like to pop into our podcast and once in a while, and doing it from Salem. I mean, it's fresh off the griddle, so to speak. So
yep, you can still hear it sizzling.
Yeah, and you can smell it.
You can smell it too. And it's unfortunate that something that smells that bad sizzles so much.
Yeah. Well, hey, tell Monique if she's watching. I can't see, but tell her I said hello, and we're rooting for her. She's a great lady. I love how willing she is to go into battle. I mean, frankly, that's what we have to do. So, and Kevin, thank you for having me on your podcast.
Thanks for being on, Virgil, and Monique for Congress.com. She I always have to say that. It's almost like a plug.
Well, it should be. That's okay.
Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you when we have you on again, which maybe is a few weeks down the road when we've seen some more of this unfold. And good luck fighting the good fight there. We've got your back.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. All right. Take care. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.